Hello, welcome to another knitting pod. I am Lena and I'm so glad you're here today. It is mid-August and it's been a doozy, you guys. Life has been super crazy for the last couple weeks. I didn't get a tape last week and I really didn't think I was going to tape today because I didn't have any time. But something that I was committed to doing got canceled. So the stars are aligned. And I thought, even though I don't have a really super planned out podcast, that it would be fun to just pop on and chat for a little bit. So if that sounds good to you, let's do it. I am excited to actually show you guys a finished object today. One that I'm really excited is done. This is the Nightshift Shawl by Andrea Mowry. I cast this on in May as a Mother's Day cast on. I like to cast on a shawl on Mother's Day or around then. Sorry, the allergies here are so bad. And my nose is itching because I didn't take an allergy pill this morning. Sorry, you didn't need to hear that. But I'm sorry if I'm sniffing. Anyway, Nightshift Shawl, Mother's Day cast on. I love giving myself the permission to cast on a super indulgent shawl for Mother's Day. It's my Mother's Day gift to myself. This is the second year I've done it, so this is not a long entrenched tradition, but I plan to keep this going because I love shawls. I just find them to be super cozy. Coziness is my religion. I live for coziness. So shawls to me are just a symbol of coziness. And to me, an indulgent shawl is one for which I can buy yarn that I want, that I'm not going to pressure myself into using stash yarn. This is all very self-serving, obviously. And I'm linking it to motherhood because I feel like nothing in motherhood is self-serving, so we can kind of use it as an excuse to balance out a purchase that we need to justify. And to me, spin cycle yarn is the ultimate indulgence, also the ultimately expensive yarn, because for 100 grams, you're at about $70, which is, it's insane, but to me, it's worth it because I love it. So that is what I did for this shawl. I splurged and bought all the spin cycle I wanted. And y'all, this bad boy is enormous. I definitely shot further than she did and made it bigger. She calls for 6 balls of yarn. But the thing about that is, with her 6 balls, she's using some of those colors sometimes as the background color and sometimes as the foreground color. What I wanted to accomplish with my shawl was a really kind of cohesive background fade with lighter colors on the foreground. So I had to buy a lot more. I don't even know how much I bought for this. I will talk about the colors in a sec. But I used all these darker colors, moodier colors in the background, and I did not use any of the colors from the foreground in the background. So number one, my shawl is a lot bigger, and number two, I didn't use up all the foreground colors. So let me really quickly, I've talked about this before, but in case you're new here or in case you didn't see that episode, let me just run really quick through the colors I used. For the background first, it was Ghost Ranch, which goes all the way up to here. And then let's see if I can remember these. Actually, again, I have not prepared super well for this podcast. I believe this is Shades of Earth. And what I love about that is it's like these deep maroons and teals and turquoises. And I really love that, that color palette or colorway, because it's just has so much depth, but also variation, but it's still cohesive. So I'd say this whole shawl is kind of Shades of Earth based. I think all the colors that make Shades of Earth up are kind of taken out into this shawl. So Shades of Earth, then I went into Melancholia, then, oh dear, Dream World, I think. And then Opia, which is, I have to say, I feel like It was kismet that the skeins I got were so perfect for what I was doing, because it was like every time I reached the end of a skein, the beginning of the next skein was just exactly that right color. So it really, really worked out beautifully. Opia was the one that I was kind of stepping a little bit further out of the fade, but I think it worked out really well, because if you can see the end, these blues at the end of Dream World going into these kind of darker grays, that's where Opia is. And it just worked out so well. And I went until I finished all those background colors. So this guy is huge. Next, some other time when I'm doing my, end of year roundup or something, I will stand up and show you. Today, I just have zero bandwidth for any editing. There will be no editing. This is just going to be a one straight shot kind of video, unless something really crazy happens here at my house, which is always possible. But anyway, I was really worried that this shawl was just not feeling like it was big, and I wanted it to be really big. I really dislike like miniature shawls. I like humongous shawls. See my previous comments on coziness. And then I thought at some point, I was like, Spin Cycle tends to be it's a superwash yarn, this Dream State, but it feels like a non-superwash yarn. It's very rustic. It has a more woolly hand. It does not have that superwash stripped away kind of feeling. So it tends to be very constricted. And since this is mosaic knitting, the knitting just really feels very tight until you block it. And I knew that was the case, and I almost stopped, put it on a barber cord and wet blocked it in the middle to see where I was. I got really that just seemed like too much for me. And I thought, it's a shawl, it doesn't really matter. Let me tell you, this thing grew. It's like one section away from being too big, like needing a taller person to wear it. But I really think it's just the perfect size for me. I love it so very much. On the foreground colors, I don't know if I'll remember all of them, but this was Leftover, Love Spell. Then I went into Deep Bump, which I think looks really pretty here. It's just such a nice contrast. Then Truth Bomb, which is one of my favorite colorways, especially for this, because the dark moody colors combined with the like neon blips is just so much fun. Like you can really see it here. Then I went into Salty Dog, and then I think I went back to Deep Bump here at the end, and that's where I finished off. I did an I-cord bind off as instructed. Here's the thing with bind offs, y'all. I do not love complicated cast-ons and bind offs. I tend to just love not a tubular, oh my God, not at all. Twisted German, the Twisted German cast on and a super stretchy, Jenny's super stretchy bind off or whatever that's called. Those are my two go-tos. You will not catch me doing a tubular bind off or cast on. I don't think it's worth it. I think it's beautiful, but I don't think it's worth the energy. That is a personal thing. If you don't agree, live long and prosper. I think it's so cool, the intricate detail of how that looks in ribbing. I-cord bind offs are the exception. I think they are absolutely worth it and so impactful, and they just make such a statement. However, they eat up so much yarn. So I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough of this background Opia colorway, and I didn't read the directions, or it hadn't stuck in my mind from this is the kind of shawl that you don't need to look at your pattern. But she instructs you to do a 2-color I-cord bind off, and I had just planned to just use up my Opia, and then I was going to do Salty Dog alone as the bind off. But then I saw that she had a 2-color bind off, and I thought, we've come this far. Let's just try it. I had some Love Spell left, and some Salty Dog left. So I just did the I-cord bind off with 2 colors. And honestly, I think it was such a happy accident because it looks beautiful. I love what a contrast it is. Let me see if I can give you a better view of it. Oh, it's getting caught in my necklace. Technical difficulties. I love the way that bind off stands out. And if it had been Opia alone, it would have been too dark and it wouldn't have been worth it. But Opia and Salty Dog would have been gorgeous as like a dark light kind of I-cord bind off. But even these two, I just like it. I like the way it pops. Because this thing is so big, I don't think it looks weird with that. Somebody's calling me and I'm gonna just go ahead and turn that off. I don't know why it goes, even though my phone is on Do Not Disturb. Anyway. So yeah, I would say if you're going to make this, definitely do the I-cord bind off. Totally worth it. And in worsted weight, it does not take that long at all. It's such a quick bind off. I was going to say something else about that, but I forgot. I could not have loved this more. It was a 10 out of 10 on process, 10 out of 10 on end result. I feel like I was worried it was going to look too much like my traveler shawl. I meant to grab it, but I forgot. I made my traveler shawl with Ghost Ranch, and it is so beautiful, but I don't love the shape. It's very long, and it doesn't have enough depth for me. So this was my attempt at making myself a spin cycle shawl that had the proper depth that for my liking. So this is a very deep triangle, so it has nice long wings and a lot of depth to cover the back, because that's ultimate coziness for me. But I love that this is a lot deeper and moodier in color than my Ghost Ranch shawl. This is like way out of my comfort zone. I do not gravitate towards turquoise ever. I do not like turquoise as a color very much, which is weird because I love all colors. But I think because this has a lot of more deep colored blue, like I would say almost more teal than turquoise, I just absolutely love it. And I don't have anything like this. And I'm just so glad I made it and went with my instincts on how I wanted to work the colors. I think that that's something that I have been trying to grapple with, is sometimes the thriftier side of me does not want to spend more money on yarn in order to make the colors exactly the way I want. But then now the person that's knit some things that are not ideal color matches, then I end up disappointed in my finished object. And it's like, why did I even bother? Like, we should love our knits. And if it's possible to procure more yarn, then I think you should. So that's what I did this time. And I feel like the end result is spectacular. I'm just now need the universe to collaborate for some colder weather so I can actually use it. But that is my finished object for the day. I think it could be incredible in other color combinations. Like, I think Spin Cycle has some incredible like neon kind of colorways, like Fluorite and Pop Click and Dark Side and Bad Egg. There's a new colorway that I can't, it's slipping my mind now, but it's like neon green with browns. If you did like a darker, moodier background and those in the foreground, oh my gosh, it would be so much fun. Like, you can really play with color. That is why I love Spin Cycle yarn. It is so much fun. Even their more staid, kind of muted, chill colors like Opia. I wanted to show you if I could find the red in it. Was so beautiful. Like, you can kind of see here, it's very moody and dark, but then it starts to pull in some red to temper that moodiness. And it makes for such an interesting color story. And it's almost more, looks like it's painted, like it looks more blended in such a unique way. I could go on about Spin Cycle. We all know, if you've been here with me, you know how much I love Spin Cycle. So that is that. I'm going to try to drape this around me because because it's actually not terribly warm in my house right now. So yeah, I love it. I'm so, so, so happy. It just feels so good to finish something that you've been working on for a long time. I started it in May, finished it in August. That is not bad in my book. I've been knitting all sorts of other things. This has kind of been a background project, but it's been just so much fun. So that is off the needles. I have several things in process right now. I'm only going to show you one. Honestly, you guys, I just have had such a crazy couple of weeks. And after I finish taping right now, I'm going to have like an hour of freedom and mental peace. And I'm going to take it and really just try to reset from all the craziness. So that's why this podcast is going to be a little shorter. But you understand how life is. A little bit is better than nothing. Next, the last thing, the only other thing I'm going to show you is my book club cardigan, because I have been loving this so much. I was worried that this could go either way on becoming too monotonous or it could be too challenging. But instead, it's like a Goldilocks knit where it keeps your attention and there's just enough to keep you occupied, but it's also enough that there's sections where the knitting is very chill and you don't have to like worry or be super focused. So without further ado, I finished the top back panel. Oh, it's so beautiful. I love it so much. And then I also finished the shoulder, the right shoulder, and like the beginning of the panel. Yesterday I picked up, I kind of got stuck. I didn't get stuck, but once I finished that, I moved on to finishing the Nightshift Shawl because I really, really wanted to get it off my needles because I want to knit that other sweater with my cousin. So I really needed to get this off the needles because otherwise it's just too much and it makes me stressed out. So then after I finished this, I picked up the stitches for the left shoulder and I've started that. And I just am in awe of it. I love it so much. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would be capable of making something so intricate and beautiful. And I've said it 1,000 times, but this is what I love about knitting is just there's no end to the creativity that can be brought to a knit stitch and a purl stitch. And that blows my mind. It's just so magical to me. So this sweater has just been, this cardigan has been a real treat. I am making it in Cascade 220 worsted weight non-superwash. That is the key. I think this kind of piece would be really hard pressed in superwash. I think, well, depending. If you used a superwash like Spin Cycle, absolutely fine. But if you use one of the more like, smooth, silky superwash yarns, it's just not going to do great for cables. But this is just such an incredibly expensive yarn. I don't know why you would use this. Anyway, I'm rambling, but I'm going to keep working on this. This is definitely a long-term background project, but I love seeing it take shape. So you can see now that front panel, and it's just really gorgeous to see the contrast in cables and the texture. It's just too pretty. My friend Jessica showed me, we finally got together yesterday after a very busy summer for her. She was gone a lot, so I felt like I hadn't seen her in so long, but she showed me a sweater she's knitting. It's petite knit, and I forgot what it's called, but it was this beautiful monocolor. Oh my God. I don't know why I just said monocolor. One color, textured sweater where it's like different panels of different textures. And I just love texture in one color in knitting. It's so interesting and beautiful, and it lets the yarn shine and it lets your technique shine. And I could totally make that sweater, but there's too many things that are beautiful to make and not enough time. That is for sure. So that is all the knitting I have to show you today. I'm so sorry that I feel like I'm robbing you of content, but I don't have much to give today. I will also say this is the colorway Copper Heather, I believe. You can buy it on Wool & Co. and it is at $11 a skein, I think, 11 or 12, which is unbelievable for such a beautiful yarn that is just so many beautiful colors. The color range is gorgeous. And on a sweater like a cardigan or sweater like this, you're using so much yarn. It's nice to have a more affordable option that's, still a gorgeous natural wool product. Okay, that is all the knitting content I have for today. Let's talk about life for just 2 seconds. And I wanted to share a few books that I'm reading with you. Let's talk about books real quick. I finished Within Arm's Reach by Ann Napolitano. I think I told you I was reading it. It is a book that she wrote many, many years ago. So the epilogue or postscript or whatever it is that she wrote for this book it talked about how this was a book she wrote like 20 years ago or something like that, before she had any commercial success. And then she had sudden kind of commercial success with Dear Edward, and then Hello Beautiful really became a smash hit because it was an Oprah's Good Book Club pick and all that. And it's one of my personal top 5 of all time. I love Hello Beautiful. If you've been with me, you've heard me rant about that book. So I was really excited that they republished this book because it wasn't widely available. And there was so much interest in her books now that they re-released it. It was such a fascinating study in technique and how much practice and just how much writing skill can be developed over time. I would never have guessed that these 2 books, like Hello Beautiful and Within Arm's Reach, were even written by the same person. Just her ability to develop the plot and develop characters is just night and day difference. And it just shows you like great writers have to work at it. It's definitely, there's some gifted writers, but the amount of improvement in her writing over the years is just astonishing to me. And when I was lying awake one night, or I woke up at night one night and I was thinking about it, and it made me think of, those adult coloring books? Like my daughter and I love these. They're like those big coloring books. They're intricate, gorgeous drawings of like nature or animals or flowers. And, people love to spend hours, doing that detailed color work. So Within Arm's Reach reminded me of getting one of those and then using 4 colors to kind of just color all over. Like I'm going to make all this section green. I'm make all this section blue. That's what Within Arm's Reach felt like for me. Like the bones for an intricate, deep exploration of this family were there, but she just didn't have the skill set at that point to make it like a gorgeous, intricate masterpiece. And then Hello Beautiful felt like a similar canvas colored in with 100 different shades of every color, and just really someone who has taken time to be very mindful and thoughtful for every detail. That's what her writing evolution has felt like. And I liked Within Arm's Reach because the story was interesting, but there was just so much more she could have done with it. There was so much more she could have explored and deepened, and I almost wish she would go back and rewrite it for us, because I think from this point of view as herself now, she could have just made another bestseller. So that is my take on Ann Napolitano and those 2 books. I can't say I would like heartily recommend Within Arm's Reach because it wasn't, I think it left a lot to be desired, but I would never unread it because I love her as a writer so much. After that, I picked up, I'm trying to remember the name, God of the Woods by Liz Moore. And y'all, it is spectacular. She wrote the other book I just finished a couple weeks ago, Long Bright River. And I loved that book. Couldn't recommend it enough. And this one is just as good, completely different. It's not like just a variation on a theme. It's really different, but I love it. It's the perfect summer read. It's got like great character development. The plot is dark and twisty. It's flashes between timelines. It flashes between characters. I mean, Liz Moore, she is an outstanding writer. I cannot tell you enough how much I recommend her work. I will do a full reading of everything she's written because she's that good. I think sometimes like mystery and suspense novels can like lack in the character development, and you just kind of are left with choosing between a mystery or suspense novel and kind of more literary fiction. I feel like Liz Moore has kind of blended them in a really amazing way. So if you have not read it, highly recommend it. So yeah, I feel very happy to have some good books going on right now because that is one of the things that just brings me joy. Reading and knitting bring me so much joy. And when life is stressful, if I don't have those things, I feel like it's a definite flush down a downward spiral. As far as life goes, it was the end of the summer, which I just cannot believe that my kids are back in school. I don't think I've had a summer go by so fast. It's like the older they get, the faster it goes. And my son started high school, and he started high school in a completely different place than the school he was at. It was a huge transition for him this year, which has been a huge transition for me because it was there were very stressful moments for him, lots of, fear and anxiety about all the changes. And I'm just so pleased that like in a matter of days, he's went from just really nervous to really happy and realizing like that he's found his way and that he's capable of finding his way. And it's so interesting to me because I feel like my kiddo, he has done a lot in this world. Like because of basketball, it's just he's done a lot of things that I thought would develop general confidence in doing other things. For instance, like he travels a lot alone with his team. He works, like he has a job. He's done a lot for, just someone who just turned 15. So the sudden anxiety around high school and this new high school really kind of caught me off guard. But it just made me realize, like, again, they look so big, but they're not. And new things are really new. And what I learned is just, even when he seems really anxious, or whenever your child, either one of them feels really anxious, like they come through it. I feel like I was panicking, like, oh my God, I haven't prepared him. What did I do? What did I do wrong? Of course, like putting it all on me. But it's not. It's just life. You have to do it, and then you realize you're going to be fine, and you did it. There's just no way through until you just do it. And that every time you do the new thing, the thing that makes you anxious, you develop confidence in a new way. And I think it's all those multifaceted ways of building confidence that eventually builds the kind of adult that you hope your kid becomes, that's like capable in the world and believes in themselves and believes in others and stands up for themselves and stands up for others. there's just no quick way to that. There's a lot of rough roads followed by hopefully some smooth stretches. And then someday, hopefully, you have a child that you have deep and abiding faith that will be fine in this world on their own. So that has been my journey for the last month, is just hanging in there and having faith. It's so funny because sometimes I think it's his first time doing all these things, but it's also my first time parenting through all these things. And I really do feel like my daughter is going to have a totally different parent, because everything she goes through almost I've dealt with in some way already, and I have so much more confidence in her and me that my poor son has to have all the like beginner parenting and she's going to get the more, secure, grounded parenting, because I'm telling you, everything she goes through, I'm like, oh no, she's gonna be fine. She's gonna be fine. And then when my son goes through it, it's like panic attack for me. So it's like his journey and my journey are almost mirrored, because it's the first time for both of us. So that's okay. Make good friends, rely on them for grounded wisdom, and I think that gets you a long way in this world. My husband is traveling right now for trial, and it's just, whenever that happens, it's absolutely bonkers in my life. So the fact that I got to sit down for 30 minutes is a huge win. Thank you for being here. I'm hoping next week is better, and I'll have more to share with you, and I'll show you the other things that are on my needles and maybe even off my needles. Until then, have a lovely weekend. Take good care of yourself. Get some knitting time in, and I will see you next week. Bye.